What is going on, guys? Predator 458 here, and welcome back to my channel. Today is part 2 of my what to expect from the different classes in World of Warships for those new players that are just about to get into open beta or have just gotten into open beta, depending on when these videos go live. So in part 1 we had a look at the battleships and the cruisers, which were my two most played classes in the game. For part 2, which will probably be a shorter video, we're going to look at destroyers and aircraft carriers, which I don't have a terrible amount of, I don't have a huge amount of hands-on experience with these two classes, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. Destroyers, I did play a bit more than aircraft carriers. I think aircraft carriers only had, excuse me, I only had a handful of games in it. I just didn't really enjoy them. It's not really what I'm playing World of Warships to play that type of game, because it almost turns the game into like a real-time strategy game, top-down view, controlling your units, moving them around around the map. So if that's what you are interested in, maybe aircraft carriers are for you, but that wasn't really what I was looking at or looking for in this game. But anyways, let's talk about destroyers first, because although I didn't play them all that much, trust me, destroyers are probably one of the most fun classes to play in the game. They start at tier 2. America starts with Samson, which is what you saw in my port, and Japan starts with the Umakaze, or Umakaze, or however the hell you pronounce it. No. Now, I don't actually have any destroyers in my port at the moment. I landed up selling them because I needed the slots for other battleships and cruisers higher up the tiers. But basically, as I said, destroyers are probably one of the most fun classes to play in the game. They're very small, very fast. They handle like speedboats. I mean, the rudder shift time is, on this one, 5.3 seconds to go from full left rudder to full right rudder. They make them extremely maneuverable, very easy to dodge incoming fire, and basically, just zip around the map, making life difficult for enemy ships. Now, obviously, as a destroyer, your main weapon is your torpedoes. Generally, American destroyers have inferior torpedoes to the Japanese ones, but they have better guns. The American torpedoes tend to be slower and have a shorter range. Not only that, but the range that you need to be, the torpedo range is actually shorter than your detection range, meaning your torpedoes have a range of 6 kilometers, but your destroyer is going to be detected at 7 kilometers, for example. So you're going to have a kilometer where you need to close distance to an enemy ship while they can actually see you. And one thing you do not want to be in a destroyer is seen and detected, because cruisers will mess you up. And just looking here, 4.5 kilometer torpedo range. These ones also 4.5 kilometers, but its detection range is 5.9. So there you can see what I mean, where you're going to be detected before you can actually launch your torpedoes. However, if we go to Japan, and this, I don't know, let's try this one, let's see what it is. What are your ranges? Your range is 6 and 10. So that torpedo has a range of 10. Your concealment range is 5.9. So even with the basic ones, you could just get into that point where you could launch your torpedoes at an enemy ship before you are detected. One thing you do have to note, though, is if you want to stay undetected, you have to turn off your anti-aircraft guns. I think the key is P. You press that and it disables your secondary and your anti-aircraft guns. And do not fire your main guns, because any kind of firing from your ship, I think, automatically increases your detection range by like 20 or 30%, and that increase stays for 20 or 30 seconds. So if you're shooting, you're running around firing your guns, or your anti-aircraft guns are shooting at enemy planes, you will be detected a lot earlier, long before you can actually launch your torpedoes undetected. However, having said that, the destroyer's special ability is your smoke screen, which is being nerfed in patch 0.40, which again comes out tomorrow for me. But it will have been out for a few days by the time this video goes live. And in patch 0.40, the duration of your smoke screen is being reduced from 30 to 20 seconds, I think. You're also getting fewer, you're going to be able to use it less times. So destroyers are getting a bit of a nerf. But still, if you can stay undetected, you can be a massive pain. And let me tell you, I've gone up against destroyer captains in battleships who play it well and play it right, and I never detect them. I never know where they are. I've got my scout plane in my battleship flying around, but they've turned off their stuff. They're staying outside of visual detection range, and they're launching torpedoes at me, and I've got no clue where the hell they are, because by the time I see the torpedo, even if I head in that direction, you know, who knows where the enemy destroyer has gone. And let me tell you, there is nothing there is nothing like the feeling of using the terrain to your advantage and getting a massive torpedo strike on a cruiser or a battleship and just wrecking him. Destroyers are a hell of a lot of fun to play, and I actually wish I'd put more time into them, because I really did enjoy it, even though I didn't play it a whole lot. And then finally we go on to the class that I have almost no experience with, the aircraft carrier. Starting at tier 4, Japan gets the Hosho, or however you pronounce that, and America starts off with the Langley. Now, as I said, I didn't really enjoy the RTS style style of gameplay that aircraft carriers bring to World of Warships. It's not why I'm playing this game, to play an RTS, but a lot of people do enjoy it, so props to them. Aircraft carriers are fucking annoying, and I hate them. I hate playing them. Well, I don't hate playing them, I just didn't enjoy playing them, and I hate going up against them, especially at higher tiers. That's not to say I think they should be removed. They're part of history. They're part of World War II. They're just, they're the ship class that annoys people. In World of Tanks and that, you had the artillery, which kind of pissed everyone off. To me, the troll class, if you will, I don't really think it's troll to play these things, but the troll class, if you will, is aircraft carriers quite closely tied up with destroyers, because they can wreck you without you ever knowing they were there. But anyways, as for aircraft carriers, you launch your aircraft, you attack enemy vehicles of whatever form. You have fighter planes, dive bombers, and torpedo bombers. Fighter planes you obviously use to shoot down enemy fighters, or enemy planes in general. So that's quite important. You can, at some slightly higher up, you can configure your flight deck to go like for a very fighter heavy configuration, and go for a more air superiority role to protect your allied ships from incoming attack, and your allied aircraft, and so on. Or you can go for a more offensive role, going with a larger number of torpedo bombers and dive bombers. So it's really just up to you and how you want to play it. Obviously, dive bombers, they drop bombs, goes without saying. There's talk of adding like high altitude or higher altitude armor piercing bombs later, but right now the bomb is more like a high explosive shell. Basically, drop it on an enemy ship. If you hit, you set them on fire. Doesn't do a whole lot of alpha damage anymore. Let me rephrase that. Doesn't do a whole lot of alpha damage. It does more than it used to. They used to be completely useless. When I started playing this game, dive bombers came and you just gave zero shits. But now they do more alpha damage. Still not a whole lot, but it's the fire, because if they hit you, they're almost guaranteed to start a fire. However, the bigger threat is the torpedo bombers. Obviously self-explanatory. They fly in, they drop torpedoes. very, very dangerous to bigger ships like aircraft carriers. When you get really good with these things, you can, you can manually drop, and you can choose exactly how far away from the enemy vessel they're going to be when they do drop their payload. There is, or there used to be, I'm not sure anymore, but there used to be a minimum arming range on the torpedoes. So literally, if you, let's just say you drop the torpedoes like here, like literally 5 or 10 meters away from the ship, they wouldn't detonate on impact. So you'd have to drop like 20 meters away or whatever. I say I'm not sure if that still happens because I've been playing higher tiers, and the higher tier carrier pilots don't make that mistake, and they drop like just far enough away so that the torpedoes arm and there's nothing you can do. If you're playing other ships, your defense against torpedo bombers, one is to stick with cruisers, especially if you're a battleship, although things like the Iowa can certainly hold their own in the anti-aircraft gun department. However, the cruisers still have that ability from tier 6 and above, which the battleships don't get. However, when you see a torpedo squadron coming towards you, your best defense is to immediately begin to turn the bow of your ship towards them. You want to go head-on into that spread of torpedoes, simply because it gives it a much smaller target, and you might then only take 1 or 2 instead of 5. Differences between American and Japanese carriers. American carriers have fewer squadrons of planes, but they have more planes in each squadron. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think American squadrons have 6 planes in them, whereas Japanese squadrons only have like 4. So Japanese carriers can launch more squadrons, but each squadron has fewer planes in it. Now, as I said, I tried these, I didn't enjoy them. So what I'm speaking about now is from my experience being on the receiving end of carriers. And yeah, a lot of people do enjoy them, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. As for where to position your carrier, again, this is from observing and from wishing my teammates would sometimes pay more attention. You do need to pay a lot of attention to how the battle is progressing. Obviously, once you launch planes, they fly to their target, then they have to fly back and rearm. The further away you are from the battle, the longer this takes. Sometimes it's a good thing to be far away. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying drive your carrier into the middle of the battlefield, because that will end very badly for you. But you need to be able to read the situation. When your team is pushing up and they're pushing the enemy back, it's probably a good idea to then try and follow them a little bit. Obviously still stick back from the actual combat zone a bit, because enemy players love to focus on the enemy carrier. But you don't want to always be hiding in a corner, because it will take longer for you to launch and recover your aircraft, and if things go badly, eventually you will be found anyway. So you do want to try and keep an eye on the situation, read what's going on. If your team is doing well and they're pushing up and they're pushing the enemy back, try and push with them a little bit, but never too much. But yeah, I think that's all I really have to say about carriers. As I said, this is more experience in watching them play and reading on the forums and that sort of thing than actual first-hand experience. But don't underestimate an aircraft carrier. They are one of the most dangerous ship classes in the game for the enemy battleships and that sort of thing, and the enemy carriers. That's basically, I think, as a carrier player, your main job is to try and eliminate the enemy carriers and enemy battleships. Cruisers and destroyers I would only attack as a last resort if they've got into gun range and they're trying to kill you, because generally, if the player is smart, they'll be watching out for your torpedo bombers, and they'll have no problem dodging them, or at least dodging most of them. And dive bombers, as I said, don't do enough to really cause them a problem. But anyways, I think that is everything I have to say on the various classes in World of Warships. Again, I mean, this video's been just over 15 minutes, or 15 minutes-ish at the moment. So I do have less to say about these two classes, as I said, because I didn't play them as much. But destroyers, honestly, don't ignore them. I know they're small, they're very easy to kill if you can hit them, but they're a hell of a lot of fun to play. And I think I will probably put some more time into them once open beta goes live and everything is reset, because they really are. They're so much fun. Can be a bit frustrating because things can go wrong very quickly, but when things go right, you'll have an absolute blast in them. But anyways, again, let me welcome all of our new players to World of Warships. It's an awesome game. You're going to have a lot of fun, I'm sure. And I look forward to seeing all of you on the battlefield, on the open ocean, and let's shoot each other's faces. Thank you very much for stopping by, ladies and gentlemen. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to hit the thumbs up button down below, and maybe consider subscribing for more World of Warships content, as well as War Thunder and a few other things that I feel like throwing in. I really do appreciate everyone who subscribes. It really helps me out and gives me a very nice, warm, fuzzy feeling inside. So, as I said, that is it from me today. Thank you very much for stopping by, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the ocean. This is Predator 458 signing off, and I will see you guys next time.